If you're listening to this podcast on a runaway train on your Android device, well, it's probably a little bit late to change Android podcast apps, but if you're so inclined and you got the time, I mean, it depends on, I guess, what point in your runaway train journey this is occurring, but perhaps you have enough time to check out the Podcast Republic app on the Google Play Store. Thousands of positive reviews touting all the features people like. I encourage you to go check it out and see what the people like about it. Maybe you'll find a new podcast player for a new year.
You might say that your favorite podcasts crash into your phone like a runaway train.
Oh my God, the synergy. The synergy,
they speed
folks.
to your phone. You don't have to think about it. There's nothing you can do about it. They just show up.
They just
Once
show
you
up.
favorite them, they're showing up.
That's the Podcast Republic app on the Google Play Store. If you haven't done it yet, head on over to patreon.com/dissectingthe80s and check out our Patreon website. If you become a member at the $5 tier, you get 13 plus hours of bonus content right off the bat. All that back content is yours. You get a special RSS feed, so it downloads all to your phone for easy listening. You can put it in whatever app you like to listen to, or of course there is the Patreon one as well. And you get a lovely sticker, a welcome email, and a welcome hand letter. Well, the letter is printed on the official
hand-signed
letterhead, but hand-signed.
And the RSS feed is a pretty it's different color than the regular.
That's right.
If you're an aesthetic person. It's
a custom artwork and everything. So check out patreon.com/dissectingthe80s and see if there's a member tier that's right for you. Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Tripp Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers, and with me, as always, is my tag team partner, a man who I assume at some point in this episode is going to turn my bones to dust when I make a reference to Soul Asylum's Runaway Train, and he looks at me with a blank, confused stare. The Macho Mandrill.
Andrew Lano. Yeah, Crazy Train is like my train song that I can think of.
Yes.
I don't know who sings that, but I
that's Ozzy Osbourne.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, in my head it sounds way less metal.
He
on
had
a crazy train. That one?
Yeah, he had like a poppier phase after he left Black Sabbath.
Oh.
It's still metal. Like I would still put it in the
like how Taylor
categorization
Swift
of
was
metal.
like diet country. He was like diet metal.
Yeah, it's just a little poppier is all. I think it's the aesthetic of the music. I wouldn't call it pop music, but it's more of like a mainstream hard rock than a metal thing.
Also thought you were going to go with the guy who I would go on I would break out of jail with. That seemed like the low hanging fruit there.
Yeah, no, I know, but I just know there's going to be multiple references to Soul Asylum's Runaway Train from 1993, and you are going to be like, huh?
No.
And I'm going to turn to dust. Yeah.
I was 1 year old.
Never coming back. Yeah, but it's been played, like, I was barely cognizant of music. I wasn't, like, a big Soul Asylum fan at 6.
I know that.
It's just, like,
knowing you could have been. Like, if that was in the back of your trading card, I wouldn't be, like, shocked.
Yeah, never coming back. Runaway.
Oh, you know what? I've heard that song at karaoke.
Okay, all right, there you go. All right, I didn't turn to dust then.
I've definitely heard
we are of course goofing on the title of 1985's Runaway Train as the final film of this two-part Cannon-uary 2021. So you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your long, boring movie that should be super exciting. Something's gonna about your long, boring movie that should be super exciting.
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott.
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
So I do want to say right off the bat that this is a type of movie that really doesn't exist much anymore.
What type would that be?
The type that I think this best fits into is not your disaster movie, because it does have some elements of that. Obviously, the title is Runaway Train. But what this really is the crisis at the workplace drama. your taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
So it's not
right
you wouldn't put this on par with a Speed.
So Speed has a lot of similar elements with this. I think it's an obvious parallel that you would draw. But what Speed doesn't have to me, and maybe I just don't remember it because it's been a while, but I don't remember the parts of Speed where it's a bunch of people in the control room and there's a crisis and everybody's all hands on deck trying to solve this problem. And it's really a workplace situation. The parts of this movie that I think are my favorite, believe it or not, or maybe not my favorite, but the parts that work the best for me as a movie are the parts where they're not on the train, but we're in the control room and like everyone's having a panic attack. Everybody's sweaty. The ties are all getting yanked down and they're all panicked trying to figure out how to solve this problem.
Okay. I think in theory, I would like those scenes. In the practice of this movie, my biggest issue, I didn't like this movie. That's spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Did not like it. I found that like the idea of this movie is cool. It's two escaped convicts on a train that ends up through no fault of their own becoming a runaway train. Right. And people don't know that they're on it. That concept is very high octane, very there's energy and there's tension to it. But the way they made this movie was like no tension. I felt very little tension in the scenes where I was like, this should be an exciting moment of like, oh my God, are they gonna make it? Like, I know most of them are gonna make it, whatever, but like, yeah, I don't know. It bothered me that it felt so boring. Like the movie, it has 20 minutes of B-roll in it, and it's an hour and 50 minutes.
If you trim this movie a little bit, I think a lot of what you're complaining about fades. I think a lot of it comes down to the pacing of the movie. And this, despite coming out in 1985, to me feels deeply 70s in its pace. This is a 70s movie.
Slow.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, I didn't really like the two protagonists. Like, they weren't wrongfully convicted. They weren't criminals with a heart of gold. They were just convicts who did the thing. And I was like, they're not, but then didn't really have redeeming qualities.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what I find so interesting.
Like,
about
what's
this,
his face? I thought fake Matthew McConaughey, Eric Roberts.
Yeah.
If this movie came out 10 to 15 years after it did, this would have been Matthew McConaughey's role. Very although specifically the like Lenny-ish qualities of this character would have been scrubbed out at some point in that 15 I guess I didn't catch Lenny-isms, but yeah.
He plays this guy as if he's slightly developmentally disabled.
I did not get that.
Interesting. So I totally got him as being like in the, not the same obviously, but like in the ballpark of your Dustin Hoffman Rain Man performance.
Huh. That might have colored things if I had thought of it that way, but I didn't think of it that way. I thought it was super fucking annoying. He was like Ducky in Land Before Time.
The voice effect to me is like actor trying to play slow person.
I got actor playing Southern.
Interesting. Yeah, I got a I don't want to say stupid. That feels like the wrong word when in just a breath ago I was talking about it being someone who had was disabled in some way.
There's
but it's
sort of a
dopiness. It's at least dumb that he's playing to me. It may not go all the way to your like savant character like Rain Man, but to me it felt that way. But interesting. Is it totally interesting that didn't read for you at all? Because I got sort of a Lenny vibe.
I got dumb Southerner.
Interesting.
But like he has moments of charm, and they happen like once, and then it's gone forever. He's like annoying in the first 10. And then he has this like charming moment in the elevator with the security guard. And then the rest of the movie is like, nope, back to being an annoying fuck. And I was like, no, like there was something there. We could have.
Yeah.
Make me give a shit, because the two characters that you actually flesh out are Jon Voight and Eric Roberts. They are just full on convicts, unapologetic convicts. And then the woman you introduce an hour into your movie, she gets 30 lines of dialogue, and we're supposed to care about her?
Yeah, I agree with you about, is it
Rebecca De Mornay.
Okay. My brain was trying to put a different, I don't know. Anyway, Rebecca De Mornay. Part of what I think is interesting about this is the thing that you don't like, because it's a very non-American hero. And I'm not trying to get like up my own ass on this.
Do you mean like
this?
I guess you're qualifying more as an anti-hero.
I don't even know if I would call them anti-heroes. They're just the protagonist.
Okay.
Like the protagonist doesn't have to be a good person that you root for.
I have a theater degree.
I'm not suggesting
Don't worry, that's
I'm
one of the 8 things that I use from my theater degree.
I'm not trying to teach this to you. I'm just discussing the point. I think that, and other people have said this too, so the nugget of story from this was supposed to be directed, it was conceived and written by Akira oh man, I always feel like I'm screwing up saying his name, Akira Kurosawa, who is a Japanese
Would have
director
much rather that version.
Well, yeah, of course. But he's, truly a legend. He is the guy that George Lucas just lifted Star Wars from directly.
Mm-hmm.
The Hidden Fortress is a really cool movie. If you've never seen it, worth your time. It is in black and white and subtitled from Japanese, so it obviously has some barriers to watching, but literally lifts Star Wars almost beat for beat is just lifted out of Hidden Fortress. This is not Tripp's theory. This is accepted. Yeah. To the point where there is basically a C-3PO and R2-D2 analog in the movie. It's one is a tall, thin man and one is a short, fat man, and they both wear armor that you could totally see if you squinted being robots. But I like Hidden Fortress a lot. It's really interesting. Even if Star Wars didn't exist, it would still be an interesting movie. It's also interesting because of the Star Wars connection. But Kurosawa, legendary director, truly directed Yojimbo, Seven Samurai, tons of movies that you've heard of or you've seen ripped off in so many ways. Frankly, I think even to a small level, your movies like Avengers, where there's a big team up, owe a little bit to a Seven Samurai sort of thing. Just in terms of, the little DNA. Anyway, so the fact that he conceived this, I think the DNA of his conception is in this, and then you filter that through your leads are Jon Voight and Eric Roberts, who are talented somewhat, although I think probably not.
The former, probably more than the latter.
People I probably wouldn't want to spend time with personally.
No, absolutely not. I might do a meet and greet with Jon Voight, but anything more than that, I don't think so. Anything more than that, I'm like, no.
I'll take the free.
I'll take the next elevator. Like, I would not get on an elevator with Jon Voight.
Yeah. So you filter through that. Plus, you filter through the director is also the same guy who directed Tango and Cash. So,
which
I think he does.
I hated.
No, we both kind of liked it. It was one of those little like, oh, this is charming.
Did I tell you that two of the dogs at my boyfriend works at a dog hotel. He's the receptionist and a pet care tech. Two of the dogs, he was like, oh yeah, this. He was like showing pictures of it. He was like, that's Tango, that's Cash, and I was like, I beg your pardon. And he was like,
"Did you teach him?
Yeah.
Did you teach him how to do an impression of
no
of our old pal Tango and Cash?"
No, I did not. But yeah, there's two dogs at work named Tango and Cash.
Stay tuned, by the way, folks. 2021. I found the one impression I can do, so we are desperately trying to find other ways to shoehorn. I can't even remember his gosh dang name.
I can't either. I have a lot of impressions, so I don't pay attention.
Jack Palance. Jack Palance. He was in a horror movie that also starred Donald Pleasance and another favorite of ours.
90s?
So it's in the 80s. So it's a foregone conclusion
that will show up, and Donald and Jack will have a conversation. We'll bring him in for an interview with each other.
It will be mostly impressions of those two people.
We'll have an actors roundtable of me, Jack Palance, and Donald Pleasance, mediated by Tripp.
He's also in Young Guns, which is a thing that's just like guaranteed to come at some point.
I thought Young Guns was the hockey movie with the butts. With a lot of butts.
No, that's Young Blood.
Oh.
Young Guns is the Emilio Estevez Western.
Oh.
every time there's a generation of like hot teens, they give them a Western. So in the 80s, it was the Emilio Estevez guys. That's Young Guns, and they made 2 of those. You got your Kiefer Sutherland, you got a Lou Diamond Phillips in there, a Charlie Sheen, a Dermot Mulroney. There's a lot. We'll be getting into Young Guns. Don't you worry, it's coming.
They stopped giving hot young teens Westerns.
That is not true, because in 2005, I just discovered this. There's a movie, I believe, called American Outlaws, which stars Ali Larter and also...
Ali Larter?
Yeah, it's buck wild. It's Ali Larter. I haven't watched this yet, but it's a guarantee that it's going to happen.
Huh.
It's called American Outlaws. I was right about that. And it stars Colin Farrell and Ali Larter and Scott Conn.
Oh.
And Kathy Bates and Timothy Dalton. It's just
I'm
all
here
the
for Kathy
things.
Bates. Always.
Yeah. And it was directed by Les Mayfield, who you might know better.
That name sounds familiar.
As the guy who directed Encino Man and Flubber.
Oh, Flubber.
He may have been, that might be producers. Hold on. Let me be, no, he directed Flubber. So, kind of a weird career.
That is a very weird career.
That guy had.
Well, I just learned today that Brian De Palma directed Mission to Mars for Disney in 2001.
Wow, that's entirely unexpected.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got really deeply sidetracked, and I don't remember where I started, so... director Tango Cash. So just remember that we're filtering Akira Kurosawa, legendary, esteemed director, whose name I'm terrified I'm pronouncing wrong, and people out there are like, you...
That sounds right.
I know, but I'm going to be in my head about it the whole time. So you're filtering this through the director of Tango and Cash into Jon Voight and Eric Roberts. So I just feel like a little bit of leeway is both necessary and important.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't need it to be that, like, Jon Voight is, stole $2 million and gave it all to children's cancer research. Like, I don't need that. Like, he doesn't have to be full on Jean Valjean in Les Mis, but like, sure. Give me something. Like, I think they really just want you to get behind the idea that nobody wants to be, like, everybody desires to be free, and that's what his whole character motivation. He's not a good guy. He just has this innate, basic human desire, this yearning to be free. Yeah, well, don't be a habitual bank robber. Like, then you don't go to jail, and then freedom feels easier. I agree. You know what I mean? Obviously, like, if he didn't rob banks, he wouldn't be in prison. Feels like you are putting your foot on, like, putting the pedal down. If you don't do that, you don't crash into the wall. Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that as a character motivation works for me. I get where he's coming from. You don't need to be a good guy to not want to be in prison. Like, you don't have to be. Not every prison movie needs to be they were wrongfully accused and they had to. You know what I mean? I kind of enjoy that this is just a movie about 2 criminals who bust out of prison. I don't know. I guess I just didn't care for. I didn't really care about either of them as people because I was like. I'm over, like, there's no sense of, like, hey, even if it was as simple as, like, I've changed, I don't want to be a criminal anymore, but the warden hates me, so all of my, like, appeals have been rejected. Like, something like that that's, like, he's not, like, a magic do-gooder who is wrongfully convicted. He's, like, someone who's reformed and, like, wants to live outside the walls, but the warden hates him. Something like that, I think, would have helped me. I get you. I think that's a totally valid criticism and a totally reasonable way that this didn't work for you. I have no argument to make against you. In the original draft, he was a killer. Yeah. In one version, he killed his wife for cheating on him, and then in others, he was a serial killer. And it feels like they like just Control F replaced that and didn't really do much, because in the beginning Jon Voight is... I have to say, I have literally said the sentence out loud to other people that bank robbers are the one criminal that nobody, as long as you don't kill anyone or shoot anybody, people who rob banks are the most universally beloved criminal. Everybody hates the banking system at large. I have no problem. I have no issues with being a bank robber.
And secondarily, when you rob a bank, they have insurance. So the only person who gets hit is the insurance company, which
Also,
most people
fuck
also
them.
hate. Yeah, so it's like there's the crime is essentially victimless, and they steal money.
You know who
like
loses? Rich people.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, so I've said this many times that bank robbers are the most universally beloved criminals because there's no victim. If they don't hurt anyone, if they just walk in and steal money and leave, there's no victim, and everybody's like, yeah, it's kind of cool. He runs
I'm
the bank.
fine with that. However,
it's a romantic crime.
They basically treat him like he's Hannibal Lecter. They welded him into a cell for 3 years, and I was like, for robbing a bank?
No,
it's not like he did. Like, hey, I pulled off a fucking Die Hard 2 level robbery, right? That was all the gold, right?
Right.
Like it's
no, that's Die Hard 3 is the gold in the dump truck.
Oh, I confused my Die Hards. Like the movie doesn't say that like, oh, he robbed Fort Knox and he's the world's most dangerous robber. They're like, he robbed a bank.
No, he gets put in the hole because the warden is such a dickhead. They like clash. That's why he gets put away. The warden hates him and tries to break him.
But like, I guess I kind of wanted more of like, why? Like, what happened?
No, I'm with you.
Did they fight?
All of the things you're saying.
Did he come in first day, spit in the warden's eye? Like, I need a morsel. Like, your movie is an hour and 50 minutes long.
It says he broke out 2 times. And that's what happened. Like, he broke out 2 times, they caught him, and then they put him in the hole.
Okay, I can see that. But like welding the door shut feels like
it's dark.
Feels
it's
like
dark.
you're Hannibal Lecter. You killed and ate little girls. Like that is that level of crime. Not you robbed a bank.
The prison in this is absolutely 100% from the same man that brought you the prison in Tango and Cash. Like it's a 1-to-1 direct correlation of a person.
Also, the prison from Dark Knight Rises,
right? But
where Catwoman does that weird flippy dippy.
Right, but I'm just saying there's a direct line between those 2 things of what this director thinks of what prisons
I agree.
are like.
These prisoners are allowed to have fire freely.
Well, they aren't freely allowed to have fire. They're setting fires because they presumably have cigarettes and stuff.
But the like watchman lets them do it. He's watching them and like doesn't say, "Hey, stop that."
Well, okay. We're on a runaway train in terms of not talking about the plot and being 20 minutes into the podcast. So I want to put a
2 convicts get on a runaway train. There's the plot.
Okay. All right. I'm just saying we should proceed the way we normally do, and then we can pick up the threads of these things that we've started the conversation with. We're like planting some seeds that we will then harvest as they're appropriate down the line.
Okay.
So we're in a prison. There's some news coverage, and we find out that the federal government, this appeals court, I believe it's appeals court.
I think it's an appeals court.
Says that Manny something
that
or other
welding a man into a cell for 3 years is illegal.
Inhumane. Yes, so they have to let him out of solitary. And Manny, who were only
I bet those lawmakers patted themselves in the back for that one.
It's like, oh boy, we really saved the day here. Anyway. The whole prison loves this guy. They have a relationship with Manny that is akin to the way the prison has a relationship with Morgan Freeman's Red in Shawshank Redemption.
I can see that.
Which is weird because mostly he seems like a terror.
Yes, that's what I don't get.
He seems like the guy that nobody wants to F with because he has the reputation as the biggest, baddest man in the cell block, and therefore everyone likes him. It's not respect alone. It's they like this guy.
Yeah, well, and also somehow the reporters know that.
I could see that so you can interview people who are in prison in some states. I don't know what Alaska's laws are.
Again, this movie is an hour and 50 minutes. Trim out the 20 minutes of B-roll of like just a wide shot of a train in the countryside because who needs it?
I mean, it's so beautiful.
It's pretty.
You have to admit
Runaway Train, not Call Me by Your Name.
Okay. I agree with you in principle, but I do want you to have to say something nice, and that it is the cinematography of this movie is amazing. But like, it's so good. Okay.
But it's just like not necessary. It's like you pause the movie to watch a screensaver for a few minutes.
Yeah, no, it's not the best.
So like trim out all that fat and instead give me 5 minutes of at the beginning of like show me like pretend we're watching a TV and show me like an expose on this prison where they interview prisoners and they expose that he is, welded into his cell, and then that can be the impetus for like, oh, that's been exposed. Now we have to do something about it. And da 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 da. And then a lot of little questions I have are answered.
I'm with you. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Is it Eastern State? Was it the Little Children? Bless the Little Children documentary? Was that Eastern State Penitentiary?
I am vaguely aware of that title, but I don't know what it is. I'm sorry.
It was an asylum of some kind. I thought it was Eastern State, but I could be misremembering. If Jack is listening to this, which he's not, he's screaming.
I do want to point out that the cinematographer on this movie is the man behind The Watcher in the Woods, a very cool looking but boring 80s movie.
It's a Disney horror, quote.
Yes. But also has been on this show many times. Return of the Jedi, director of photography. A View to a Kill, director of photography. Life Force, director of photography.
Wow.
This is his 4th appearance on the program.
Wow. Is Watcher in the Woods, the lead actress in that is...
It's Betty Davis.
Thank you. That was...
Okay. Yeah, it's a interesting, cool looking movie that's super boring. I watched it in my horror binge this last October.
Is it 90?
It's just like
minutes.
The runtime?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's right about that, but it's very slow.
Well, I can scrub through.
It's way more boring than this.
Okay.
Way more. Anyway, so they release Jon Voight from solitary, and I don't know if you caught this. The rest of the movie, it's not so noticeable, but there's a shot here in solitary. His teeth are genuinely horrifying. He looks like Christopher Lloyd's baked bean teeth in Dennis the Menace.
It's been a minute since I watched Dennis the Menace.
That wasn't like
Isn't he the neighbor? Isn't he like the...
No. Christopher Lloyd is the homeless murderer. I don't remember what the character is. So he could be an escaped convict. He could just be a homeless man.
Huh.
He literally could be anything. He is a person who is some type of untethered from society person. He's got stringy hair or whatever.
Okay.
But I remember he had these horrifying teeth, and it stuck with me obviously because I can't tell you any other detail. But yes. Anyway, Jon Voight's teeth in the prison cell are deeply horrifying. It looks like they locked him in there with no toothbrush
and only cigarettes.
Yeah. But the warden gives like a big bad speech here of, oh, you're rotten scum, and I'm the king of this prison, and I'm the man in charge. I'm basically God. Da 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 da. Kind of
Give
stuff.
me Jon Voight accidentally killed his daughter in the bank robbery. Give me like literally anything. Because I really truly do believe though it's just that like you want these characters to be more human relatable, and I just don't think this movie wants to do that, which is fine. I think your criticism is valid. I think it does prevent you from connecting with them in any way, but I really think the movie's point is they're sort of, Jon Voight is a bad guy, and also the bad guy of this movie is a bad guy. It's just not good people. It just becomes like not enjoyable to watch then for me. I'm just like,
I think that's reasonable.
It's a slog.
I think that's reasonable. I can't watch a television show with this as the premise. It doesn't bother me as much on
for 2 hours
movie. Yeah, exactly.
That's fair.
I could never get into Mad Men because I was like, everybody on screen is a sociopath and I hate them. There's nobody to root for.
I want to get into Mad. I love mid-century modern shit. As I've gone, I want vintage toys. Like, I have in my eBay watch list is like 1960s Easy Bake Oven, vintage Barbies. I want to get into Mad Men, but
it wouldn't shock me if it turned out that you really liked it. I just was like, I couldn't get in past that hump. I do also want to say that if you put someone in solitary confinement for 3 years, they would genuinely lose their mind. This is not.
So, his solitary.
This is not debatable.
No, not that. But I wouldn't even call it his thing solitary confinement because he's in the, like, it seems like their cages or whatever are all open and everyone can just wander around and do whatever the hell they want. And his little cage is right there. It's not like he's like hidden away with only a little like slidey window for food. It's a bar. It looks like a regular jail cell.
It does, but then they put that door over top of the jail cell. That's the one they open.
See the door
has
over
that little
top.
slot. Oh, there's like a big production of them like creak opening, and it's like exactly what you just described with like the little slot thing.
Oh, I don't remember. I must have missed that.
He's behind like a steel fortress door with the window slit.
I must have missed
and
that.
They
completely.
open that, and behind that is the jail bars,
Okay.
the jail cell normally.
Retracted. So Jon Voight carries his mattress in the snow for, I don't know, jail stuff, I guess.
I think they just make him take it to his new bunk.
Okay. And he talks to his friend who, hey, he has a friend in jail. Maybe this character will become important later. Absolutely not. He gets beat up and takes an Uber out of the fucking movie.
It does seem like that would be the character he would be on the train with, but I think that
or the character that gets beat up by the warden and we watch that happen for like, where is he?
Yeah. He does say that he's going to escape with this guy, and I think him getting injured.
Yeah, well, he
him
says
from
like,
being the
I'll
guy.
wait for you. I still want to go through the plan. I'll wait for you. And the guy says no. But like, I was expecting the warden to like beat him up, rough him up. Something that's like, tell me where Jon Voight is.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a good scene. Perhaps one that was shot and not put in the movie, frankly.
They also have this weird ass moment that like, I just have to talk about. Like this movie has some weird gay sprinkles throughout.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of them. So like Jon Voight is talking to other old white man. They look indistinguishable other than a mustache.
I would argue that they don't look indistinguishable because Jon Voight has the weirdest mustache
Other than the
I've ever
mustache.
seen on a person.
It's
in
like a
movie.
weird. I'm trying to think.
It's a steampunk mustache.
It's very steampunk. It's like he did.
I was expecting him to take out a top hat with gears all over it and be like,
Pocket. He has a little pocket watch that like stops time.
"It's been a long time since I've been out here in the real world."
Excellent Anaconda.
We're only doing Jon Voight in Anaconda impressions
With
on this
a who
podcast.
knows what kind of accent.
Cajun fried stupid is what that
I still cannot believe that Roger Ebert loved that movie. I mean, I will say Anaconda holds up. I watched it recently.
And also Roger appreciated a big dumb movie. Like he understood that sometimes you just want to watch monsters smash around.
No, because in his review he says it's like a slick script that knows how to like is funny. Like it is not, hey, this is like a fun dumb thing. He like commends things that you're like, really?
I would argue that I agree with that. I think the script for Anaconda is a good script. It's exactly it's a Tremors script. It's exactly
it is a Tremors script.
This is the key part. The scenario is stupid and no character treats it that way. Is I think the key for me with that type
I can agree with that.
Like inherently it's dumb that there's a giant snake that can swallow people whole. Inherently that's stupid. Giant snakes exist, of course, but the one in Anaconda is preposterously larger. Yeah. But no character in the movie at any point is like, this is absurd. Like they're just, oh shit, a big snake's about to eat me.
Well, I think in the kayfabe, it's real. Like they know it's real.
Yes. But also, like, they know it's real in Tremors. They know there's a tremor.
No, I think in Anaconda, they're filming a documentary about a tribe of people that worship a giant man-eating snake.
Yes, but no one has seen the snake.
Oh, I guess. Yeah, but I mean, I feel like knowing that, I don't know. This is not a Tremors podcast. I mean, this is not an Anaconda podcast.
Anaconda.
So there's this weird moment where, like, Eric Roberts is like behind them, like roughhousing with the guy. Like he's kind of puppy dogging Jon Voight, and Jon Voight is asking the other old white man, like, "Oh, what's his deal?" And he says, I don't remember. He says something to the effect of like, "Well, he's not very strong, but he can push the laundry cart." And then they do the laugh.
He's not very smart, but he can push the laundry cart.
Oh,
yeah.
Smart. And then they do the laughter equivalent of that Predator hand grip moment where like,
you son of a bitch.
They like, I think they touch foreheads and just go, and I was like, what? Is this doesn't come back later? That doesn't a moment like that doesn't get repeated later. So like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you my reading of it, but I do not intend this as a defense of it.
I don't need to defend it. I just give me anything.
My reading of it is they are going to set him up to be the patsy. So they're going to break out and he's going to get blamed for helping them, and that helps them in some way.
Okay. Sure. Okay.
Like he's a useful idiot is my read of
okay.
that
I mean, I can see that.
laughter.
But that if that laughter scene exists on YouTube, we have to post it because it is truly buck wild and like, huh?
I would be surprised. This movie is kind of hard to find, believe it or not. It's not even available for a rental at a lot of places. It's specific.
Oh,
Thank God
weird.
for the local library.
So these prisoners are allowed to box and have normal clothes, which
They give them boxing shorts and shoes and stuff, which is very
no, but
strange.
everyone in the crowd, like I think one dude's wearing a Garfield T-shirt with a coffee mug that's like, "I hate Mondays." Like, there's normal clothes in the crowd.
That strikes me as canon more than
Like a
anything
Tweety
else. We
Bird,
cannot-
like not a morning person with like the eye mask on.
They have an airbrushed boardwalk T-shirt that's like, "I'm with Steve."
Yeah, it's like a
Arrow.
knee-length airbrush like swimsuit cover-up
Like,
T-shirt.
It's a triple XL, triple tall
Yeah,
Tasmanian devil shirt.
yeah. He's got ice cream, and he's like, "What a beach! Life's a beach."
Rehoboth Beach, 1994.
Yeah. But like, that's what I was weird that I was like, they're allowed to have regular clothes. I thought this warden was a hard ass.
I didn't notice that. Yeah, no, I didn't notice that. But that's 100% a canon film's like, we do not have the budget for 200 prison uniforms. We can only afford. We can afford.
They're not even like black and white stripy like this silent film. They're just like the denim.
Right,
The
but I just
Hooper-
think
the Hooper
they were
special.
like, we can either have 10 prisoners in the uniform or 80 prisoners without the uniform. You pick. That is what we have the budget for.
Okay.
But did you notice who his boxing opponent was? That's one of the other reasons I
Danny
found this movie
Trejo.
interesting. So did you do the research on this part? Okay. For those of you out there, this is Danny Trejo's first on-screen appearance. He did do a voice in a dub of a Jackie Chan movie 2 years earlier, which is on IMDb, but seems odd to me that he would have gotten that job as a non-actor. I don't know what the deal is. That might be a IMDb mistake. I didn't dig into it. But since 1985, this is his first credit. They paid him $320 a day to teach Eric Roberts how to box, and then basically went from teach him how to box to you look great, like you look like you would be in prison. And he's like, yeah, I was.
Well, so Jon Voight's other old white man friend's name is Jonah, and apparently he knew Danny Trejo. I don't know if it was because they both were in prison.
through prison.
They both were in prison. I thought so, and I couldn't remember. And so he got Danny Trejo the training job, and then the training job became so prison begat training job begat boxing partner job, and then he got paid $325 a day, and he was like, "Wow, that's more money than I ever made robbing banks or however criminal enterprise he did."
Right. And the director was like, this guy's great. Let's get him into SAG. And then since then, Danny Trejo has been in 300. He has 398 acting credits on his IMDb.
I always love Danny Trejo. Anytime he shows
he's a
up,
guy-
I'm like, yeah, Danny.
He's a guy who shows up in your student films, like
Yep.
weird stuff. Honestly, people will just give him like, hey, people will get in touch with him and be like, will you be in my movie? And he's like, okay. And they're very low budget, whatever. So he's a guy that just likes to do
He's
this.
in Spy Kids.
Well, he's good friends with Robert Rodriguez.
But so he's in Spy Kids as Machete, and then Machete had his own series of movies. So
Yes.
but it's the same character.
Right. Yeah, that's Robert Rodriguez in a nutshell. But
I love the
Danny Trejo-
the RRCU.
to go back to the SATs, which I don't think these are even on the SATs anymore.
Oh no,
The
they got replaced with essay.
I whatever.
Analogies used to be on the SATs.
Yes, I was good at them. That was like a sweet spot for me. But to make the analogy, Danny Trejo is to Robert Rodriguez as Dick Miller is to
Joe Dante.
Joe Dante, thank you. I was like, I'm going to get I literally started this with all 4 names, and I was like, I'm going to lose one on the way to the end of the final station. I was like, I almost said, I was like,
Roger Corman? Which would have worked too.
Yeah. But anyway, it's just a very small scene with Danny Trejo, but he's good to see him. The boxing
Danny
looks
Trejo,
good.
also an Anaconda.
Yeah, he is also an Anaconda for like 1 minute.
In the beginning.
Yeah. The boxing looks good here. It's not big theatrical boxing like Rocky. It looks like real boxing.
Danny Trejo, who probably learned how to box, learned how to fight in prison. So it's real, dirty looking.
And I think he has legitimate boxing training as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't Google, so don't get mad at me if that's wrong. I'm sorry.
So they're watching the fight, and then Jon Voight goes to pee, and we get super stylized slow-mo, which is the first time this happened, so I bet this is important.
Yeah.
And someone tries to stab Jon Voight, and Jon Voight is pulls a Wolverine and hits the guy with a stool, and then the guy stabs him through the hand, and it's super gnarly looking. It
looks really good.
A great effect. And then the warden boss opens fire, his guards open fire into the crowd. And I was
live rounds, by the way, not rubber bullets, not tear gas. They just open fire into a crowd.
And I was like, oh, so the warden asked this dude to stab Jon Voight so that he could shoot him. And I was like, there are 100 ways that you, as the warden of a maximum security prison in Alaska, could kill someone. This is the most leave him in the snow. I'd chain him to a fence in the yard. Hey, buddy, there's options here.
Alternatively, don't have a blood sport.
Yeah.
Just don't have a blood sport fight that gets everybody riled up. Perhaps that's a solution.
That too. And so...
But it does lead to the part that is my favorite in the movie, which is Jon Voight doing the thing Jennifer Love Hewitt does in both I Know What You Did Last Summers.
I do this constantly.
He throws both arms out wide and is like, what are you waiting for?
You want to look at me?
Shoot me.
You're trying to shoot my snake? My white snake?
He just walks around with his arms out like he's Jesus.
And then he throws a stool up into the rafters, and it doesn't make it.
He gets close with this stool huck, though, to the point where I was impressed none of the actors up top flinched.
Yeah.
Because this is a cannon shoot, and they were like, just go ahead and huck the stool. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah,
I also wanted to know,
breakaway.
Where does it land?
Wink.
Where does it land? We don't see it.
We don't hear it.
I know. So my prediction is, or my thought is that we don't see it land or hear it because it absolutely demolished somebody who was an extra, and they were
I'm picturing that it was like, hey, PA, get on the other side and catch it when he throws it, because we got to reuse it.
Okay, so instead the PA,
some poor PA has he's got hockey gear on and a basket.
No, they did not supply hockey gear.
I didn't say Cannon supplied the hockey gear.
He wore his own bike helmet.
I think he was a hockey player, and he had it in his trunk. But so as Jon Voight is Jennifer Love Hewitting, which, audience, I have to say, it's very cathartic, especially in these trying times. Throw your arms out, spin around, scream into the heavens, what are you waiting for? Try it. As Jon Voight's distracting everyone, Jonah just is like, hey, ding dong, buddy, and just guts the man who stabbed Jon Voight. Eviscerates him.
Yeah.
And then they all fight, and they get into the infirmary.
There's a really odd, it ends on a really odd sort of push in freeze frame on the dead man. It's very strange.
So that's what, this movie has weird editing, and it was nominated for an Oscar for editing.
Yeah. I think a lot of that is the action editing is really clean and really good looking. Also,
you can't,
most of the technical awards at the Oscars are just nonsense.
Yeah. Well, also, so we talked about this before. This movie, Jon Voight and Eric Roberts were both nominated for Oscars for their performances. I don't know why. I don't think these are Oscar performances.
I don't think they're Oscar performances with the lens you have now, but if you look at the other people nominated that year, none of those movies are like breakthrough.
Well, that's the year. So that's the year Don Amici won for Cocoon, and you and I, when we watched that movie, were like, "What?
Yeah,
you won an Oscar for this?"
Yeah. Well, I do think that Amici. I think we determined, and I'm not.
He's the best in that movie, but
I think we determined Amici got the makeup / lifetime achievement Oscar.
Oh, like we didn't give it to you we didn't nominate you for X or whatever.
Honestly, I lost a lot of interest in the Oscars as I got older and got as a big film nerd was reading about it. And it just got to the point where in the era that I was watching them, it seemed like every other year there was somebody getting a makeup award for when they didn't give it to them and they should have given it to them for this other thing. And it made me think that honestly, we should stop having the ceremony for a while, and then you do them retroactively back 5 years so that you can give everything a little bit of space and see what
in
actually
2025
resonates.
You would celebrate 2020 to 2024.
No. You would celebrate 2020 alone.
Oh.
And then in 2020, it would literally be a 5-year gap between the movie's release and when you award the performances.
You know the general American public does not have an attention
You
span
can't
for
do
that.
it. No, you can't. Absolutely can't do what I'm talking about. But it would
Most
be a
people
better.
don't even remember half the movies that are nominated the next that came out the year prior.
That's largely a function of how we have so aggressively siloed our movies into there is the Oscar silo, there is the big family movie silo, and there is action blockbusters, and then basically nothing else. So we have just built only these buildings to put these things in. But I think you probably would have a completely different set of nominees. Maybe you'd have some people that you can recognize instantly, but I bet you'd have a wildly different set of nominees if you did this kind of thing. And I'm not saying they're actually ever going to do it, but I do think it would be interesting to if we went right now to go, okay, let me look at 2015.
It's common knowledge that horror movie actors and actresses just don't get nominated, with Lupita Nyong'o in Us. Was she nominated? She might. I wasn't sure because I thought Get Out won the
Get Out got script, yeah. But the other thing, and again, this is not Tripp's Oscar beef, the podcast, but the other thing that I have always found baffling, even before I was as big of a nerd about this stuff, is why is it only 12 to 15 movies, maybe 20 on a different year that fill out all of the categories? It is extremely unlikely that in the same movie you had both or all three of the best director, the best actor, the best cinematography, and the best editing. It's very likely that a movie that is not good as a narrative has great editing or one good performance in a crummy movie, and all of it. That's always been a thing to me.
The Suicide Squad won an Oscar, so it's easy for a shitty movie to have one shining element that gets an Oscar.
Right. It in the technical awards that does happen for sure. Stuff will sneak in for sound design and sound editing and stuff. And the problem is a lot of the people voting on that award don't understand what those things are, myself included. I'm not all that up on that category.
Well, actually that kind of happened with the Emmys. For RuPaul's Drag Race, they were like, they're nominated for makeup and hair for this episode with Lady Gaga in it because they knew Lady Gaga would get attention and get votes.
Yeah.
Except RuPaul was never in drag in that episode, so within a week they had to take the nomination away from the makeup crew for Drag Race because they didn't do anything that episode.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of it's all dumb politicking that's done and whatever. It's fine. I'm glad people enjoy it. I just have tuned out because also, I don't like the kind of movies that they nominate. They're not my cup of tea anymore.
You liked Parasite, though.
I did enjoy Parasite, but Parasite feels like a crazy anomaly that felt like the makeup for the previous year or the year before that when it was why is everyone nominated white? And then it was the big course correction of, okay, we got to do this thing and check this box.
I think the year before was Shape of Water for Best Win. And then was it Moonlight? Was that the year before where Blah Blah Bland got announced instead of Moonlight?
That feels right. I'm not 100% sure, but that feels right.
Yeah.
I was very invested in Guillermo winning because I love that guy.
I love him.
I really hope there's never a story about how he sucks.
Jesus
Not
Christ.
that it matters, but like he and his wife got divorced, and I was like, "Ugh," and it was just like two people got divorced, and I was like, "Okay, cool. Sorry that I was invested in your life in that way, but just want to make sure you're not a creep."
Let Guillermo make a Haunted Mansion movie, please.
Yeah,
And a BioShock movie.
he's one of those people that announces too many projects, and it.
Yeah,
always bites me in the
he
ass.
announced that Haunted Mansion movie like 10 years ago, and we all got
Yeah,
excited.
Never
and
gonna
then
happen.
we were like,
yeah.
oh, this was the Guillermo. We got Guillermo.
Yeah. Anyway, we should talk about the movie we're here to talk about.
I guess.
We get an appearance by podcast friend-ish Tiny Lister,
Yeah.
who played Zeus in No Holds Barred, one of my favorite episodes of the show.
Podcast buddy.
Podcast buddy feels a better word for it. And the part I don't understand here, I guess he has them because he boxes, although I can't figure out how he actually got them. But Eric Roberts has brand new boxing shoes that he's giving to Tiny Lister because Tiny Lister's son is a boxer and is training, and he's got Jon Voight hidden in the laundry cart, and he's trying to distract him. And
Well,
Tiny
I
Lister
thought he
starts,
said the shoes were for the Emmys.
No, he says for the Golden Gloves.
Oh, I thought never mind. I thought he said Golden Globes, and I was like, sneakers with a suit? That feels it's ahead of its
Very
time.
Ellen. No, Golden Gloves. It's a boxing thing.
Got it. It makes way more sense than I'm not like regular girls. I wear Converse to prom.
Exactly.
Also,
But
this is another thing that like you have an hour and 50-minute movie and you chose to gloss over the finer points of how Jon Voight masterminded this escape. How did he get into this unguarded part of the prison?
Well, he uses the laundry cart to do it, so it's basically glossing over it to get him out in the laundry cart.
But so Eric Roberts pushes the laundry cart through, with all the guys throw their towels in. When he gets out the door, the guard checks it to make sure no one's hiding in there. And then Eric Roberts goes down like a dark, dimly lit hallway, knocks on a secret door, and Jon Voight pops out and then climbs in. And I was like, but what? How did you get there?
Right.
If you're like prisoner number one, you're that evil Kermit in Muppets Most Wanted. Like, how is... I don't know.
I get it. The movie is not interested in the escape, and that's frustrating because it's like you think that's exciting.
It's an escape
why
movie.
Is that not here? Yeah, no, I agree, but I think my assumption is, and again, we were talking about the Golden Globus folks here. It's like it says Runaway Train, get him on the goddamn train. What are we doing here? Like, get him out of the prison.
I think I wouldn't have been mad if it was like, give me 20 minutes of a prison escape movie and then an hour and 15 of a train movie. That seems fun.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I don't think this is a great movie. I do think it's really interesting.
That.
And I also think for talking about canon movies, this is a weird thing. It's weird that they made a movie like this.
Well, people say like purists, like Runaway Train purists don't like that it was distributed by Cannon because that kind of colored people's perception of it.
Sure, yeah.
But it still got nominated for Oscars and shit. So like, which probably the only Cannon film to do so.
I would guess that's true. If it were wrong, happy to see the tweets.
I would bet a scratch off.
In this instance, I'm happy to see the tweets.
Yes. Also, I think I find the sound mixing terrible in this movie.
That might just be the fact that we're watching it
because
all these years later and it's hard to find.
Conversations happen down here. And then there's a train! Don't worry. We won't die. Chugga chugga choo choo! Like, what's happening? I hate that. Like, that's my biggest pet peeve.
Oh, my biggest pet peeve.
I'm like, if I have to lean in and... Because if I'm watching a movie at night, my boyfriend's already asleep. I don't have a dial that I can, like, play like a fiddle. I have a broken remote that, like, the volume up and down button is annoying. I hate it. I hate it.
I end up genuinely hitting the mute button on 30% of action scenes because I'm in the same boat. I'm watching it. It's like after my girlfriend's gone to sleep and I'm watching the movie, or I have it on, she's reading a book or doing something else. And it's like, I don't want to hear like, so when we infiltrate the hideout, and it's just everything is mixed that way better. Now. Our podcast is run through leveling software because you and I speak at slightly different volumes, and it's annoying if I don't do it. And this is a podcast run by a couple of doofuses. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Run it through a leveler. Gosh.
It's so annoying. This was the scene I was talking to where
the homoerotic stuff. I was like, "You're a little early for the homoerotic part." Of the movie.
I was gonna say the scene in the elevator with Tiny Lister is the very charming Eric Roberts scene where he knows how he has to distract him, so he gives him the shoes, and when he can't pay, he's like, "You'll get me later," and knows how oh, I have to pick up this nudie mag so that way it'll just he knows how to play the system, and I was like. If he's this annoying little shit that no one likes, how is he able to game this? He feels like he's an artful dodger.
I got the impression that Tiny Lister and this guy are friendly, and not a lot of people like Eric Roberts.
Okay, maybe I can see that.
Is my read because they seem to have a gen. But I also want to point out, not only does Tiny Lister have porn at work, he has a lot of porn at work.
He has you go if you would go into a grandparent's house and you're like, "What's this stack of magazines?" Oh, it's all catalogs that you from 8 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say it is true if they are actually Playboys because he does mention Hugh Hefner. There are genuinely great pieces of writing in old Playboy. Truly some of the best writers.
Did Gloria Steinem write for Playboy, or did she just pose as a Playgirl?
I do not know the answer to that question. But I can tell you that most of the great fiction writers in, 20th century-ish folks, a lot of them appeared in there with short stories. Some great nonfiction writing appeared in Playboy. Mm-hmm. So truly, they did have great articles. However,
that's not why people bought them.
I don't think that was the driving force behind most purchases of Playboy. And it's just what are you doing looking at naked women all at work? Are you doing stuff in that elevator that's wildly inappropriate?
Well, it's the same with in The Shining, it's Stephen King, so it's a Stephen King universe. It's right. The boiler room is just full of naked ladies, and it's right. The boiler room?
It's a real movie trope in the olden times, since basically movies have no sex or naked people in them at all anymore in mass. But even Die Hard has that moment where there's just a bunch of porn on the wall, and it's anybody with a blue collar job
inside the wall.
It's stuck on the wall. It might be inside a breaker box.
Because for some reason I was picturing that being in the area where he finds Hans Gruber. Where it's this is not... This...
It's just before or just after that.
Yeah.
But it's a weird old movie trope of blue-collar workers having pornography around for reasons.
Sure.
But so he gets him out of the elevator. He wheels the cart into this area where Jon Voight can break out. It's very similar to Shawshank, honestly. And we Jon Voight crouch down naked, and he's
naked.
Honestly, I honestly thought he was masturbating. He's really aggressively rubbing his thighs, and I was like, "What what is happening?" And then I realized he was lubing himself up. But then later, we never get an explanation for why.
What I think it is, I think it is body heat. So they're in Alaska, it's 30 below. So what he's doing, he's covering himself in grease and then plastic wrap to trap heat.
Oh,
I'm 99% sure.
What's the role of the grease with the plastic wrap?
Well, I think the grease is to help, it's like an oil. If you cover yourself in Vaseline, it helps, Vaseline is a blocker.
Huh.
I'm guessing. Okay.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with that, but that, doesn't mean it's not.
Because I think it was people in olden times and Inuit culture, they would use whale blubber in as an insulating layer.
Interesting.
I
Okay,
think.
I didn't know that, but that's I buy it. That makes sense.
But yeah, I was like, oh, that's a naked-ass Jon Voight. And then Eric Roberts has to get naked and grease himself up. And I was like, what is happening?
I do like they get down into the sewer-ish area and they're tromping through and there's a bar and he gets out a car jack
It's
and
a
he uses
great.
that to
I've never
pop
thought of
the
that.
bars. No, I think it's great. And then we get a very Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid like, we got to slide down this pipe. I don't want to do that. Well, that's where we got to go. And then they like launch them out of this pipe. Some good stunt jumps here.
I like it a lot, but this isn't the start of me being like, oh, Eric Roberts, just shut your fucking mouth. Because he just repeats himself. He's like, oh man, it smells so bad down here, man. It smells terrible, man. It smells. Shut up.
So this is the part of the movie where I thought that's where I got the inkling of him playing somebody.
I'm surprised Jon Voight didn't drown him in the poop.
Yeah, no, it does seem pretty on brand for this Jon Voight character and probably real life. But this
Allegedly.
this is where I got the Eric Roberts playing the sort of like Dustin Hoffman Rain Man-y thing because this is that's just Rain Man. Like Dustin Hoffman's performance in Rain Man is I just repeat everything and I put an affect on my voice.
Also, there's an inexplicable shot. So Eric Roberts left the laundry cart outside their little, because they went into a building, opened a hatch, opened a manhole to get down. Then there's a shot of the laundry cart outside the building alone, and what looks like a flashlight coming around the corner. And I was like, oh, we're gonna see someone discover the laundry cart. It's gonna set some action in motion. No, we just see the laundry cart hang out alone.
Well, it cuts right to the riot.
But like, why you didn't need the insert shot of the lonely laundry cart?
Oh, so I thought that the lockdown was them looking for the escapees. I thought those two things tied together.
But you didn't. So like, but then show me someone discovering the cart.
Yeah,
like,
no, I'm not mad.
They're like, here, we're gonna give you like a chocolate chip cookie with no chocolate chips in it. No, you can't do that.
Honestly, every time there's this kind of goof up in a Cannon movie, I just assume that, I don't know, somebody didn't focus the lens, someone didn't
Then just cut out that whole shot. Just drop the shot.
I'm with you, but I just always assume it's stupidity.
Why wouldn't they just trim the movie? Like, you would think they would want to, like, I think we talked about it last week, trim the movie down to a tight 90, and you can cram as many showings as you can.
That's what's so interesting about this, and I tried to find it, and perhaps it's been written about elsewhere, but I did genuinely try to find it, why this doesn't wiggle into the normal Cannon slots, and I do genuinely think that at some point someone watched it and was like, oh shit, did we make a good movie? Like,
possible.
Not good in the sense of, I mean, I think there are many good Cannon movies, but I like that kind of nonsense, but good in the sense of Oscar eligible type. Did we accidentally make a movie that people like, you know? And that might have been why this got a little more hands off in terms of the slicing it to ribbons Cannon business.
Maybe. Also, it's daytime now.
Yeah,
they escaped at night, and when they dove through the tunnel, it's daytime.
Yeah.
What happened?
Your classic Batman tunnel.
Or that scene in X-Men, X-Men 3, X-Men 2, one of the X-Men movies where Magneto lifts the Golden Gate Bridge in broad daylight and puts it down at like 10 p.m. and no one did a thing about it.
Yeah, no, it's usually they hide it with a tunnel in a movie. At least they hit it with a tunnel in this.
It's just weird. Also, we're an hour in and we're on my second page of notes.
Well, we did a lot of dilly-dallying. I think we'll end up going faster as we go. Also, did they explain Eric Roberts not having shoes? Because it looks like he just has bad shoes.
I think he just has bad shoes, but don't worry.
Okay.
He'll tell you 1,800 times over the next 7 minutes. I need shoes, I need shoes, man.
I just think it's wild this didn't read to you as Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man. It's identical. Like, Dustin Hoffman does literally this performance. Gotta watch Wapner. Gotta watch Wapner at 6. Gotta watch Wapner. It's the same voice and it's the same speech repeating thing.
It's possible. Also, they look like they're doing shitty Star Wars cosplay right now.
Yeah, they're on Hoth.
But it's Hoth. It's Luke on It's Han Solo on Hoth. That's Eric Roberts, and then Jon Voight is an X-wing fighter in his orange, like an orange jumpsuit. I was like, "What's happening?"
Very much. So they bust into this work, like warm-up cabin for the train yard, and they steal some clothes, and Eric Roberts finds some shoes, and they find some hooch, and then they go to leave, and there's this long lingering shot of the prison jumpsuit just left on the floor.
Well, also, someone knocks on the door, and is it supposed to be someone from the prison?
It looks like a couple of train-riding hobos to me.
You know what would have fixed that? A 30-second shot from the outside of the goddamn cabin.
Or just not have this moment. Like, we just don't need it.
Can be said about a lot of this movie. But I was like, Eric Roberts, Jon Voight, you gotta throw your clothes in the fire.
That's exactly what I was saying.
There's a stove. It's the old cast iron stove pipe thing.
Right. It's you crank that bad boy open, toss that shirt in, it's gone in minutes at most. So they try to find a train but that doesn't come back. That's not the thing that gets them.
Yes, it is.
Who finds the shirt later?
They say in the helicopter, "Oh, we just found a blah, blah, blah. We think it's Eric Roberts."
All right, I must have been taking a note then. Because it is definitely Eric Roberts who doesn't dispose of it well. Jon Voight does. But you'd think that Jon Voight would have learned at this point that this man's a moron and he needs to be more aware of what he's doing. So they hop on a train, and this is where we see a lot of train pornography. There's lots of dials and switches and knobs, and it's doing it for somebody because I don't know if you went on the Wikipedia page, but there is a section nearly as long as the plot that in detail breaks down the specific train cars and their mechanisms.
Look, here's the thing. Horse girls and train boys are cut from the same cloth. At one point, I dated a train boy, and it was not pretty. So,
hey, I don't want to yuck other people's yum. I play with Lego, and I watch 80s movies and do a podcast about them. I have no room.
People will know what I'm talking about when I say horse girls and train boys.
The official stance of me on this podcast is that we don't yuck other people's yums. Everybody's got their thing that they like. I'm just saying this for somebody is doing something.
Yeah, and obviously I don't we say it a lot that I don't know a lot about that. The second we veer slightly out of our wheelhouse, it's just like a barrel down a hill of, oh no, get back on track. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't know trains. But the train conductor, I don't know, pilot.
So engineer, I believe, is the technical term for the person who drives the train. Well, then what do you call the
people who I called?
The conductor takes the tickets and does that business.
Well, what do you call the guy with the computer? That's not an engineer. I thought he was a train engineer.
The guy in the guy from Flashdance?
Yeah.
He is the dispatcher.
But he created the system of the
dispatch system.
I call that an engine, whatever.
He may be. I'm just telling you that.
I was my brain was oh, that's an engineer.
Okay, so the word for the person
you
who
mean
flies the plane,
so that for trains that you mean the engine ear
is yes, exactly.
I don't like it.
So I'm not using the term engineer the way that you use that as a generic job title. I'm saying, much like the word for man or woman who flies plane is pilot, the word for man or woman who drives train is engineer.
I literally just
that's
watched
what I'm
that
trying.
Happen.
Yes. So the guy from Flashdance may also be an engineer, but he is not the engineer.
In my notes, I called him the train engineer because
yes.
Anyways, so the man on the train who drives it has starts up the train and then instantly has a heart attack.
Yeah, he's not doing anything. What they needed was him having to pump a lever a bunch of times. Just do something physical. This man just has a heart attack out of nowhere.
I mean, hey, maybe that's the secret message. Heart attacks can come out of nowhere.
the silent
killer.
You know what the real runaway train is? And this guy just has a tray of fast food.
Yeah. And the warning signs of heart attacks are different for women than for men.
Well, there you go. They should have put that in the movie.
Just so the whole left arm, right? Is that heart attacks or is that stroke?
Yeah.
The whole left arm, I can't feel my left arm, whatever. That's a someone born as a man specific thing.
Interesting. Well,
anyways,
they should have also had Rebecca De Mornay have a heart attack, so he could have experienced
there we go.
all types of symptoms.
I
do want to point. So he like starts having the heart attack, and he's obviously having a heart attack. It's a movie heart attack, and he stumbles outside, and the people see him as he's outside, clearly in distress. Like, what's going on with Bill? He looks like he's sick or something. And then the body falls off the train, and it's the funniest dummy fall in history because it's just like 2 feet. It barely falls off the train and flapjacks. And I was like, the train's not moving very quickly.
That's what I'm saying. So
this seems like an easy stunt.
As he's having his heart attack, he pulls the brake on the train and then falls off dead. And these people are like, oh no, we have to call dispatch. I'm like, someone jump on this train.
It does seem like someone could have.
It's like the Belcher kids when Louise jumps off the train. She's like, "Here we go!" And that was this train is not moving fast at all.
Yeah,
like it just start. Like there's no way a train can get that fast that quick.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Someone could have jumped on this stupid train and fixed it.
No, I do think that's possible. I think it was mostly, oh my God, our friend is dying, and we're like trying to help our friend. And then the time they realized that they had the train was also a problem.
Yeah.
It was too far.
Okay,
that is my guess. So we get the Mook from Flashdance at work, and this is what I alluded to earlier. Like as a person who used to work in newspapers, there's a certain energy to this kind of panic, I guess is the right word for it, that I have always, like, I personally enjoy this. I feel like I'm pretty good in these situations. When I worked at the newspaper, I was always the guy that's like, oh, something just caught fire. I'd go run out and do the thing. And election nights were always a big thing with like, planning coverage and figuring out we got to zip all over town to all these things. So I have always liked this kind of movie. Like this kind of tension is something I enjoy in a movie. And I do think that mostly these parts work for me. I don't know that they are great, but they work for me. And I'm about once every 5 years I need this kind of movie, and it's probably been about that long, so it just lined up right.
I think again it comes. I didn't get the right kind of tension out of these. Like no one's taking it serious. Like the people are screaming on the phone. Like that's the other thing. They call right away. Like, there's a runaway train. Hey, dispatch, come here. We got a runaway train. And I was like, yeah. It's literally over your shoulder.
Yes.
Someone can hop on. Jesus. And so when he hears that, he's like, calm down. And I was like, no, like the phrase runaway train should be like a red flag.
Well, I think part of it is the dispatcher, the Mook from Flashdance, has built this new system, and I think everybody thinks that he can stop the train.
Yeah, and I think that was the other thing that was weird, that all of a sudden, halfway through, it was like, well, you designed this train system, and I was like, he did? That could have been, I don't know, talked about before.
Yeah.
Like, if he,
I said, this isn't perfect.
When they call in to say, hey, there's a runaway train, oh, calm down. My new computer system can take care of all of this.
Right.
Ding. There's a 10-second line of dialogue that adds something.
Yeah, I'm with you. Because later they explain away why it's not working, because the train's brakes are failing, because the engineer, who was on the train, was aggressive about keeping this particular train as rolling stock, even though it had lived past its life. And they're talking about, like, he's the only guy who wanted to keep that thing around, and now it's falling apart and we can't stop it. So all those pieces kind of work for me. I don't know. Like I said, it's not the greatest movie ever made. Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 is way better at this exact same thing. Literally, it's another movie about a train control room. It's just the subway train. But
frankly, this movie could have been a good concept for a Universal attraction. It could be very Star Tours.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That makes sense.
I liked the visual of the computer program that controls the train.
Yes. I love the board on the wall that we see later of how the train moves along with the flashing lights. That's really great. We cut back and we get Jon Voight and Eric Roberts talking, and Jon Voight calls him a creep because he's a rapist, although I think they say rapo.
They call him a... Well, so that... He says, you rapos are always crazy. And he said, I'm no rapo. Where'd you hear that? And I thought they said rainbow. And I was like, is that a weird way of calling someone gay?
That would be the funniest way to do it.
Right? No, instead, Eric Roberts is like, nah, it was statutory rape. And I was like, there's not enough explanation. He goes, she was 15 and I was older. And I was like, there's not enough numbers in that sentence.
Yeah, and also
she was 15, I was 18.
And he's drawing a heart on the window as he says it.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, he draws a heart in the steamed up window. Ew, you creep.
Yeah, I was older is not enough of an explanation for this.
No.
I was 18, she was 15. Makes me feel better about this.
I mean, I'm still a little yucked by it.
It's still gross, but like saying it was statutory, you need hard numbers.
And also, we are definitely aware that he is not 18 in this movie, so...
Well, how long has he been in prison?
I mean, I guess it's possible he's been in prison for 7 years or something, but this looks like a man firmly in his 20s to me.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing when we did Ghoulies, and they were like, this guy's in college. And I'm like, he's 50.
That is a 55-year-old man. Get the hell out of here. Eric Roberts himself was born in 56, so he'd be 29 when this movie came out. Obviously,
Oh, you're right. Yeah, 29.
Obviously, his real age doesn't necessarily correspond to the age of the character he's playing, but anywhere near his real age is just a nightmare.
But then there's this weird moment where, like, I thought we were getting character development from Jon Voight, where Eric Roberts is like, I'm just gonna, go to Louisiana, go to New Orleans, and I'm gonna keep being a criminal and like get some regular jobs, blah blah blah. And Jon Voight's like, no, you aren't. You're going to get a real job with blah, blah, blah. The only thing that you can do, like, has this weird monologue about, like, get your life straight, get your life on track. It's going to suck, but you have to do it. And I was like,
right.
Oh, we're getting a, like, fatherly figure moment out of Jon Voight. No, that just disappears like flash paper.
Yeah, no, it's really weird. I think a lot of it comes down to they gave him moments that he could do monologues in this movie.
But then, like, don't give me a monologue that tries... Because this monologue feels like, oh, let's give him some character shading.
Right.
But it doesn't do anything.
No, I think he performs this role well. I think it's a little underwritten, and I think it was just a down year for the Oscars.
Yeah,
is the ultimate answer to
like there have been down years at the Tonys too. So
yeah. So they approach this switch track. They're trying to clear a path for them at the train station.
And then no one, like, the dispatch tells another train, like, hey, there's a runaway train coming at you at 70 miles an hour. You have to get onto the second track. And they're like, yeah, whatever you say, crazy. And then they slowly pull. I was like, so no one cares. Like, no one takes this seriously. No one has tension. Like, what?
Right. Yeah, it's very strange. The score also does this movie no favors, and I honestly think the biggest problem with the solution to the problem you have,
John Carpenter,
with the tension. I mean, John Carpenter would solve it instantly. Yes, this would be a perfect movie to bring him in as a composer. But I do think if you just took this exact movie now, trimmed 5 minutes out of it, because I do want to keep some of those long, lingering, beautiful shots. I think they're great, and I think it's a strength of this movie. You take 5 minutes of that out, you get this down to like 142, and because with the credits and all that, you get this down to like 142, and then you fix the score, and then you've got a much more tense thriller.
The score,
because at one point, we haven't come to it yet, but at another point, there's like, they repeat the same beat too many times. But the another time where they're trying to switch the track, the song sounds like a summer rental soundtrack.
Uh-huh. Yep. It's got this
weird, like almost steel drum.
It's a steel drummy 80s synthy beat. And they do it earlier too. I hate it.
Yeah, yeah.
So they hit another train.
It looks so good, by the way.
The train crashes look great, but like, wouldn't that slow you down?
Only marginally, I feel. I think the situation here is we're stuck at full throttle.
Okay.
So it will like take some momentum away, but you're still at full throttle, so it's going to ramp right back up.
Got it. Okay. Because also, like, in my head, I was like, there has to be protocol for trains.
Right. Well, the guy has set the train to its, acceleration level, which I think, trains take a long time to get up to speed, but he set it at like maximum. And then he starts having the heart attack, so he yanks the brake, which should counteract it. But at this point, we see the brakes literally melt off the train.
I didn't know that's what that was, because
okay,
so we see like extreme close-ups of the sparking train the whole time. And then all of a sudden a train man like walks over to a hole in the snow that's smoking, and he reaches in and goes, ow. And then they cut away from it. And I was like, no, the audience needs to know what that is.
Well, the dialogue right after is, it burned through its brakes.
I missed that. I was like, movie.
I think part of the problem that you didn't like this movie is you stopped paying attention a little bit to the dialogue.
When it's a 2-hour fucking movie, how dare you?
Birds of Prey is like 105 minutes. You love that.
And
the same distance.
It's an interesting, colorful movie with a great score and well-rounded characters.
I will push back on you on the it's colorful thing. This is one of the 5 movies ever made, maybe not 5, maybe it's more than that, but where this movie is set and the fact that it's on a train, it's not going to be colorful because it's that. It's not your grayed out modern blockbuster.
No.
We're just saying. So
now we get some bullshit of the guy who designed the computer system is like too proud to do stuff about the train, and I was like, this feels unnecessary.
There's a little that character is kind of never given his own path, because later there's the stuff with the warden that kind of
which
like pushes him in one direction.
Fuck off. Because it's not this beleaguered train engineer's fault that you lost 2 inmates, you little shit.
Right. So his boss comes in, he's all flustered, and the older guy is like, we're going to derail the train.
His boss is big energy of Clark Griswold's boss in Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
I can't remember. He's got a very distinct voice.
Brian Doyle Murray.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, we'll just derail the train. So they call ahead to this guy who, by the way, was in Halloween 4 and also...
Oh, really? Was he the old man that rescues Michael? Or is that not is that Halloween 5?
He's the Reverend.
The Reverend?
Yeah, I don't remember the character either, but he's the Reverend in that.
4.
He's also the hobo in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I need to rewatch that. It's been a minute.
Okay. Well, that's also a future episode, I'm sure.
For sure.
Anyway, you would maybe recognize this guy, listeners at home, but they tell him like, all right, go throw the switch and send him down this path. So he does that, and he has to like go manually yank this lever. And then they're like, the train whistle's blowing. He's like, hey, you guys hear this train whistle blowing? And they're like, oh shit, put it back. And he's like,
but then also like,
it.
They don't think it's weird that the people on board the train haven't radioed for help in any way.
I don't think that there is necessarily the communication method.
There's a phone in that booth.
Yeah, but what would it be connected to? Like, how would the signal carry?
I don't know. Trains?
There's no wireless communication.
I have no idea, but like it feels weird that there would be. Wait,
my assumption.
No, because planes have wireless communication. They radio the tower.
But they have to be close enough to the tower to radio the tower. I don't know. I don't know I don't know how it works.
I don't know trains.
We've hit the limits of our knowledge. I assumed also, doesn't the front car get damaged? Hasn't the front car been damaged at this point?
No, I don't know if it's been damaged, but it has another train wrapped around it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is kind of a problem.
And that's the thing. So there's all these like weird shots of this fucking train that like are from a low angle with like harsh lighting, and it looks like the train is sentient and evil and like killed another train.
It's supposed to look foreboding. I think it looks worse. I was going to say,
I was like, this isn't Christine the train. This is this isn't Chris Train.
That would be much funnier. It's just the easiest problem to solve ever. It's just like get away from the tracks.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
I will say the Rebecca De Mornay character doesn't ever attempt to communicate with anyone, so it must not be possible because she is a train employee. She seems intelligent,
but she's also a cardboard cutout. So
She is, but she does at least know how the train works. The one characterization detail they give her is that she knows how the train works.
Yeah. There's an hour left in this movie.
Yeah, well, it goes pretty quick from this part. So at that point, they know
Voight
there's
looks
people
like
on
the
board.
Underminer in The Incredibles and Incredibles 2. At this point,
yeah, he does.
He's got these goggles on and a hood, and he's like they're out on the front of the train. And then there's a moment that to me felt like a finale of like they're like, this bridge can only handle 50 miles an hour. This train is going 90. Like something's gonna happen. And there's a moment of like Rebecca De Mornay, Eric Roberts, and Jon Voight are like trying to hit the train coupler with shit to like make it detach.
Yeah.
So they can slow down. So there's shots of them, shots of the control room, shots of people staring at the bridge, like trying to clear out people from around it. And I was like, this is a finale moment. Like this should be the finale of the movie.
I thought what this was going to be was they were going to end up like jumping to another car and like the back part of the train breaking off. And like the train like the coupler snaps and they lose a car or two and the train keeps going. Because it's really the analog is the scene in Speed where they have to make that really hard turn and they have to move everybody to the one side of the bus and the wheels are coming off the ground. Like that's what this should be. The like, oh God, we're gonna die, oh God, we're gonna die, oh God, we're gonna die. And you just narrowly miss it and you're like, oh, I thought that was the end of the movie, but there's a little bit left. Part is what this should be, and it isn't.
Instead, this is the Act 2 finale. And I was like, oh, there's an Act 3?
Right, because they introduced this as a ticking clock. They're like, they're going to be at that bridge in this many minutes, and I'm looking at the runtime of the movie. I'm like, well, that ain't it.
That ain't it, kid.
They're not going to do 2 minutes of movie for every 1 minute of real time.
That ain't it, sis. But there's 40 minutes left, and I was like, what is happening? And
so they're trying to cut the cables. We also missed the part where the Rebecca De Mornay character, they see her trying to make her way toward them, and they have a fight about like whether to help her or not. Mm-hmm. Not that it's hugely important, but it does start the rift between the two characters that comes up later.
Yeah. And then so like Eric Roberts drops the fire extinguisher they're hitting it with, and then Rebecca De Mornay falls, and I'm like, this is still boring. How is this boring? It's
all the score.
It is. Really, as soon as you said that, you're 100% right that the score just like the score just takes the like kicks this movie in the back of the knees.
I honestly think that if I spent 45 minutes digging through the music available from Incompetech, the place where we got our theme songs for the show from, I could find music that would make this movie work better.
Easily.
Yeah. And that's not because like the music there is good. The Kevin is a good composer. I say his first. I can't remember how to say his last. McLeod, or it might be McLeod. Whatever.
McLeod.
He's a good composer, and the music is good. We use it on the show. I like it a lot. I've been listening to it for years because of the show. But it's just the score for this movie is wrong for it. Is really what it comes down to. But they do get the train slowed a little bit, and then there's this great shot. The warden has like tried to barge in. They were like, "Fuck off! We're trying to deal with this train problem." But there's a great shot of him like with his arms crossed, pouting through the glass door of the office. I don't know if you caught that. I was like, "Man, I wanted to come kill my prisoners, and all they want to talk about is the train."
I think for me, if you cut out this bullshit with the warden, I'm way more like I want the warden to get shut the fuck down by these train people. But like, hey, buddy, sorry that you lost 2 people and didn't do your job. Get out, because we're doing our job.
Right. And also, why are you in here? You don't have any authority. We're the train people. Get out. This is train business.
Because then later he's like, where is the train? Hey, buddy, I'll give you 2 hints. It's on a fucking track and it's headed for this bridge. You do the math.
The guy can see the board and he ends up like assaulting
he assaults the man.
Flashdance. Yeah. But the answer that he wants, it's on a track. Just follow it. You're
it's a train
helicopter.
Going 80 miles an hour on tracks towards a bridge. Go to the bridge, go backwards. You'll find it.
This is a high school math problem, bub. The train is going this direction at 80 miles an hour. It's literally a high school math problem.
I hate it. Like, you didn't need that.
But you're right. You brought up like, so the train rumbles across the bridge, and there's a little bit of cool stuff with the bridge kind of falling apart. But I wanted the bridge collapse. I thought we're watching a Cannon picture.
I thought that's what we were doing.
Yeah, like what is happening?
And then at this point, Eric Roberts looks and sounds like a young cousin Eddie.
Yeah,
Like he's in the CW reboot of the gritty
movies.
teen reboot,
Teen Vacation,
Spring Break.
I would watch it.
I would watch a mini series of National Lampoon CW's Spring Break Vacation.
It's like Clark. This is it. It's how Clark and
Bev.
But what is I keep wanting to say Audrey.
Ellen.
What is her Ellen? It's how they met on a spring break trip, and Eddie, her cousin, also came on the trip, and he meets his
You're right.
wife.
I
there,
forgot
too.
that he was her cousin.
Yes, that's the answer right there. It's like you get the annoying cousin Eddie business. This is perfect. And this is honestly the movie they were trying to make for a long time and just didn't. The vacation one, Swiss Family Griswold.
Oh yeah. And then it'll be the first version of the hot girl in a convertible, and her name can be Audrey, and he'll be like,
Yes.
I'll remember that name.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's fine. You got to nudge people in the ribs if you're making one of these things. Anyway, there's very Star Trek sounds when we cut back to the control room. I don't know if you caught that, but I just watched the 2009 Star Trek, and so the sounds were very fresh to me, and I was like, oh my god, that's that. So this is a big scene for the guy, the mook from Flashdance. I keep calling him that, but I didn't specify that he's the guy who works at
the cook.
the weird club. He's the cook who wants to be a stand-up comedian. I think he's pretty good.
He's pretty good in this movie.
Yeah. So he gives he does like tell the warden to piss off, and then he's like, I gotta go take a leak, watch the control board. And then we cut to him in the bathroom peeing, and it was just such a movie thing. The way he's framed, I'm like, oh, this guy's about to get attacked while he's
I was like, please don't. I was like, this isn't Tom Hanks. Don't make me watch him pee.
It's him like from the
perfectly framed.
Mid torso framed, but the door looks so ominous behind him, and I was like, oh man, are we gonna at least hear it first? Nope, the warden like ninjas in there and smashes the door in.
And then he like gives him a swirly.
Yeah,
And
into his own pee.
I was like, thank God, spoiler, the warden dies. We don't get to see it though. How dare you, Cannon-uary? So we cut back to the train, and Rebecca De Mornay is like, hey, if we shimmy across the front of the, I don't know, whatever. We have to go from the one side to the other side across the top of the train, whatever, to get to the thing. I guess
it's your classic final beat of any of these things of like,
Yeah.
you got to do the dangerous thing to hit the button to do the it's like it's in every
you have to
modern
cross
blockbuster.
in Galaxy Quest, you have to cross the skinny metal thing to hit
Yes.
what's the called?
I don't know what the button is called, but
it had a name that I
with a
can't
funny
remember.
name. Yeah.
And so
But it's like this is in your Avengers movies, like Tony Stark. You got to fly through the hole and do the thing and do the thing, and then they
I was
can't
like,
come back.
there's
it's all
no
that.
ropes on this train? Because ropes would make this a lot easier.
Yeah, I would argue that probably not. Like, I think a rope would feel convenient to me. Why would the logics of a rope being in a train engine?
There's a toolbox. Rope in a toolbox.
Yeah, but a toolbox I get. Rope I'd be a little bit like,
Rope
all
in a
right.
toolbox feels like, yeah, there would be rope in a toolbox.
Maybe. My toolbox has no rope.
So Jon Voight is like, makes Cousin Eddie do it. And he like shimmies out, and then when the door is shut, he's like, yeah, this guy's an idiot. A lot of no brains, a lot of courage. And Rebecca De Mornay goes, that's mean. And I was like, for fuck's sake.
It's such a funny, weird line.
What are we doing? And then so Eric Roberts is like, hey, I can't do it. It's freezing. My face is going to crack open. He
won't even let him back in, and Rebecca De Mornay has to like jump on his back and choke him a little.
Jon Voight won't let him in. And I was like, oh, so he's just completely irredeemable and a garbage piece of shit. So Rebecca De Mornay has to attack him. Again, score terribly. Doesn't offer any help here. He roughs her up. So Eric Roberts gets inside, like crawls in.
He throws her into the door on the other side, and she smashes it with her head.
The glass breaks.
Yeah.
So Eric Roberts crawls in, and he kicks the shit out of him.
He gives him the alcoholic dad speech of like, you're better than this. You're not my son.
Yeah, and I was just like, wait, so we should completely hate Jon Voight.
Yeah.
So like, his whole like sacrifice at the end, I was like, no, this is A, it's selfish. You're not thinking about anything but yourself. And B, you're a garbage piece of shit. Like, die. I hope you die. I hope your train explodes.
Yeah. But it does have a little bit of like, I don't know, samurai loner business in it to me of like.
But samurais are like, aren't the whole point of samurais is like honor, right?
Yeah, it's like living by a code. It's like you watch Mandalorian, right? Mandalorian is just a samurai show.
Yeah, but like, but Jon Voight doesn't have a code.
Well, Jon Voight's code is like, I hate the warden. It's not much of a code.
But also like,
I agree with you. He sucks. The character is bad. A bad person.
Give me a code. Like, yeah, I'm fine with a code. I just want one.
We get into this big fight here, and this part is where I really like. This fight doesn't do much for the movie, and it doesn't look very cool. So I just don't know what the point of it is. It's Jon Voight with a knife and Eric Roberts with a wrench, and they're like standing off, and he's like, "I'll beat you to death. Don't make me do it. I'll beat you to death." And it just goes on for too long.
They all kind of give up and they're sad, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, but like, will this train crash already?"
I do like that Ava DuVernay, because we're always bitching about how
you said Ava DuVernay. Yeah. That's a director.
Yes, I knew I was going to do that. That's what my brain
directed Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah, my brain has been doing that the whole time. It's the rhythm of it is too similar to my brain. Rebecca De Mornay, I will say, like, we always bitch about this in the movies where the female character just kind of stands by while a dude gets his ass kicked. She does jump in and bite Jon Voight's nasty hand and probably get a bloodborne disease of some type.
Bloodborne path, BVP, baby, all day. And then so she throws the knife out the window, and then, by God, that's the warden's music, because a man on a ladder on a helicopter.
Yes.
And I was like, but like, this doesn't it just defies logic. It's a train. It's gonna crash or it's gonna stop, but it's on a linear path that it.
I think the warden is concerned that they're going to get off the train somehow. And
then their legs are broken and their bones are dust.
I mean, I will say it seems survivable if you hit the right kind of snow.
That's what I said. But Rebecca De Mornay was like, you will be a bag of soup.
Right. Well, you got to wait for a curve and all that business. So it's not like, easy to do. It just seems survivable.
Also, I feel like I said maybe like all major trains like this just have like a giant parachute in the back.
That would probably slow it down.
Like, wouldn't that help?
It would slow it down.
You just create a lot of drag. A little clip, throw the chute. There you go. Not solved, but helped.
Yeah, it would help, I would think.
But so the first guy who comes down just slips and crashes into the windshield and then gets sucked under the train, and we don't even get to see it. This is a Cannon picture.
I was mad. I was like, we are watching a Cannon picture. I was genuinely mad. The dummy bounces off the glass and then doesn't get train wheeled.
Yeah, and so now Jon Voight is screaming, like having a monologue, screaming out the window at the warden, and I was like, I don't care. I can't care. I don't care.
He also doesn't give him the finger, which perplexed me, seriously.
Yeah. So then the warden decides he's going to climb down the rope ladder, even though they're heading into a patch of 100 mountains.
Yes, it's a pretty big tunnel.
I don't know why it's like, why does this point? It's just all tunnels, in and out of tunnels. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Then we cut back to the room of the train controls, and they're all kind of like down, and it's got. I do think that
because they realize they have to crash the train.
Right. It's literally they're doing the philosophical train problem of like, do you kill 3 people, whatever. But the problem I have with it is the way this is set up and the music. It's one of the few effective bits of score makes it seem like this is the epiphany moment. And it isn't.
No.
There is no epiphany from the train people. But the guy from Flashdance is like watching TV and they're showing a space shuttle land.
Yes. I was like, I think that's what I was like, oh, the parachute. He's gonna realize that like they can do something to make a parachute like the space program does. No.
Yeah. It genuinely is set up in the movie to be the like, oh, I got it. We do this. And then they like save the day, and it just doesn't happen. No. They just they're done. They're not in the movie again after this shot.
So Jon Voight climbs out the front because he's gonna fight the warden, I guess. a good hand crush.
Well, he says he's also going to do the thing that the other guy couldn't.
Because now
we do get a good hand crush. I don't want to gloss
a
over
great
that.
hand crush.
Although I thought he was going to come up sans fingers, and he doesn't,
Just
which
little
is weird.
stumps. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he like hides, and the warden James Bonds his way in because this is an appropriate use of resources.
Yeah. Well, he just really wants to kill. He and Jon Voight are at such extreme odds. They hate each other so much. They just both, their only goal is to kill the other guy.
And I just like, again, it's a train. Trains have to be on tracks. You know where the train is going. You know where the train is. Just let it happen, my dude.
Yeah, exactly. I do like that he pulls out a fire extinguisher and sprays the warden with it, and then
that was a
wallops
clever
him.
use of stuff.
It's pretty good improv. It's also straight out of wrestling, which is good. The part that, of course, I can't believe you glossed over and didn't talk about is Rebecca De Mornay leaning on Eric Roberts, being like, "I don't want to die alone. Hold me." And it's just like, are we supposed to get romance here? Because stop it.
I checked out. I was like, no, go fuck yourself.
I think it's fine if it's genuinely like, you're a human, I'm a human, I just want to die like in a
holding someone.
Yeah, like let's just hold each other and die. It seems better than the alternative.
That's
you know
fine
what I mean?
with me, but like
it's just genuine human comfort. But it's not portrayed that way.
No, and so Jon Voight handcuffs the warden and he's like, "We're all going to die today with this snake." and then the warden is like, "Hey, remember those two other characters?"
Wait right here. I'll solve that problem. And then you and I will die with the train.
You had the experience of hearing your bones crush as you feel the tight embrace of the snake.
That's a quote. That's a quote from Anaconda.
We're going to burn to death in here. I cannot wait to hear the sound of your screams as you burn in front of me.
So he sets the train.
He just can fix the problem now. He hops out there. It's just like pop, and he uncouples the train. It takes no effort. He does a thing with a wrench that you think it's going to be hard, and then he just is like, and he pulls it up with his hands instead. It just pops right out. It's like unplugging an iPhone from its charger. Just like boop.
Eric Roberts and Rebecca De Mornay come up, and Jon Voight like gives him a wave like he's on a parade float in Disney World, like he's goddamn Mickey Mouse, and they're like, "Jump over to this train," and I was like, "How?" If he had done it the moment he uncoupled, he could have easily done that. But instead he
would have been like 2 feet,
and he climbs on top of the train, and like again, Jennifer Love Hewitt's himself on top of the train. Yeah, and so
it's honestly more like Andy Dufresne in Shawshank when he climbs out of the pipe and he's got his arms out of the
except it's
rain.
Not, because it's just in a wide. There's no close-ups.
Well, it wasn't Jon Voight. I think this is a stuntman.
I don't care. Like, put him on a fake train. Like, this is...
Yeah, they do fake train a bunch of times, like rear projection style.
Like,
it could have been done.
This feels like this should be like the Yoda sacrificing himself in the lightsaber duel moment. That happened, right? Yeah. No, Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan. Yeah,
like,
Yoda
this
fights
feels
with
like
the
this should
lightsaber
be
in
like,
the prequels.
Hey, have a good life. I buried the gold here. Like, something. And instead, he's just like,
goodbye, everybody. I'm going to climb on top of the train now.
And he just climbs on top with his arms outstretched.
I get to die the way I always predicted, on top of a runaway train.
And so they cut. It's just like quick cuts from Eric Roberts crying with Rebecca De Mornay, a fucking far wide of this train, and then the prisoners, like a sweeping shot of prisoners leaning against their like bar doors crying.
Yeah,
and
they all seem to know it's happening, and it's like, well,
why?
No,
how?
Does he have ESP? Is he Magneto or Professor X? Rather, this is like he's sending a brain signal to his friends.
It's in fucking Cerebro, and so like the train goes off screen, and we fade to black with a Shakespeare quote. Go fuck yourself, Cannon movie.
It is. The Shakespeare quote is too much by half.
Yeah, I was like, you're not gonna show me the warden explode in a train, but you're gonna give me a Shakespeare quote. How dare you?
Not seeing the train explode was genuinely offensive to me.
Yeah, very much.
I think everybody knows by this point, but I guess you're not going to recommend this one.
No, it's 2 hours long and it's boring.
I want to be clear. It is after you cut out the credits and stuff, like 1:44.
Either way, but it feels like a full 2 hours because the score does it no favors. The pacing is weird, and it's just like a movie about two escaped convicts on a runaway train in the Alaskan wilderness has no business being this boring.
Yeah, I really truly think that if all you did was fix the score, you would like this movie.
I think it would really help.
Yeah. I'm giving this the lightest of recommends. I do think it's like unusual in its setup. There are better versions of the Taking of Pelham 123 style, workplace thriller. For example, the one I just mentioned that also is about trains. But I was surprised at how much I enjoyed this, especially because you watched it first and texted me. You're like, oh my God, this movie is torturously boring. But I was surprised at how much of this I did like. It was more that I liked pieces than that I liked the movie. But I'm so used to one flavor of Cannon films that it was kind of neat to see them do something just completely different to me.
That's fair.
But this movie is hard to find, and so it's not worth the great efforts it takes to track down. It's weird to me that it's not available. I guess
it's like
probably
Cocoon.
There's some... Yeah, it must be something with
anything nominated for an Oscar that year got cursed.
Yeah, it's like they just shuffled it off to weird.
And anything because I was gonna say Back to the Future got nominated for best song. So I was gonna say anything that won the Oscar is just like cursed.
It's gone. Yeah, it's the monkey's paw. But yeah, I think there's stuff to like here. I don't think
the
it's
Howard's paw.
But it is interesting, and like I said, it's just fun to try a different flavor from the Cannon family of products. I much prefer the other flavor, which
the other
you don't love as
great.
much as I do either. Yeah, but yeah, I did it. It's not like Cobra is way dumber and has a lot more fun to be had. This is not like a late night movie like you expect with a Cannon. So
yeah, and I'm excited for next time because it's a movie I genuinely love.
Right,
I cannot wait for that after this.
We're heading into favorite Spew-ary, the new. I know you want to call it. Yeah, I know you want to call it that, but mine is sweatier, and therefore I like it better. The first pick, given that your birthday comes first, that'll be dropping on February 8th. You want to tell the people what we're watching?
We are watching Little Shop of Horrors. Hopefully, we haven't looked into it yet because we do everything half cocked. I want to do the director's edition, the Frank Oz, that is the true ending of the original Broadway or off-Broadway musical. If we can't find that...
if you can't find that, you can find it out there.
The scenes exist online. It's great. It's great. I was in it in high school.
So we're each picking one of our favorites. Spew-ary has been retired because the only way to do it now is to get even sweatier than favorite Spew-ary and do like television series and stuff. So we've retired that. It had a great run, and I think we checked off every legitimate Part 4 sequel, except there's a Dirty Dozen one that might find its way in there somehow, some way, someday in the future. But I just couldn't be. For now, it's in quiet retirement, the Spew-ary, which is fine. We had a good run together.
It's going to be our Main Street Electrical Parade. We'll dust it off when we feel like it. Yeah, it may. Well, again, there's only one movie, and it's like that, and like maybe you can make an argument for some Cheech and Chongs, even though they're wasn't Ollie Hoop Noodle one of the fours? Ollie Hoop Noodle's Haven of Bliss, I feel that we are obligated to do because it has become a stupid joke that I've done multiple times 4 years apart. So perhaps one day we'll check that off too. But again, that's a stretch to call it a 4. But anyway, so Andrew's picking the first movie in February, and I am picking the second, which we'll tell you on the next episode. But don't forget to check us out on Facebook. It's facebook.com/dissectingthe80s. And we're at dissectthe80s on Twitter. We love to hear from y'all. So if you want to say hello, that's the way to do it. And if you haven't yet, please review the show. Go do it. Don't stop being so lazy. It's not that hard. You're capable of doing this. I believe in you. Thank you so much for reviewing the show. And I hope you aren't offended at my horrible Australian accent. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I have been Tripp Leno. I will always be Andrew Leno. Until next time. Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production.